Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. Now that the Richmond International Film Festival has had its successful run here, it's time to mention the Virginia Film Festival. Tickets for their impressive lineup go on sale on October 3rd. Closer to home, local production company Bell Tower Pictures is showing two of their films, Anahita and Herd, plus a sneak preview of their next film about human trafficking and veteran suicide. I'll have links to both of these on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry. Meanwhile, let's turn to today's festival. This is the second year in Richmond for the Inthrive Film Festival that celebrates voices and talents of incarceration survivors. This year's event runs from October 3rd through 6th at several locations around town. Today I'll be talking with two of the filmmakers from this year. Juicebox P. Burton, whose short, Space to Breathe, is a futuristic look at life without prisons, while Ashley Hunt's And Water Brings Tomorrow takes a poetic approach to the closures of prisons and what happens to the land.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Black Rabbit on Netflix. Jude Law plays a man enjoying the success of his hot New York City restaurant, while his ne'er-do-well brother, Jason Bateman, shows up to make a mess. This dark drama gives this duo an opportunity to impress with their performances. Law is continually compelling, while Bateman stretches in new directions that most often work, although it seems a bit forced for his natural personality. The writing is strong, and the taut direction keeps things forceful, even though it could use a bit of tightening. The cinematography echoes the plot's pressure by constantly squeezing the people into tight spots, while the score is chocked with hard industrial accents. When it's not trying to be intensely heavy or taking too long to finish almost every scene, the series can be a forceful tragedy. By the way, Bateman directed the first two episodes, and his former Ozark co-star Laura Linney directed 3 and 4. I gave Black Rabbit 4 out of 5 stars. All right, today I have two different filmmakers with two very different approaches to their subject. Why don't y'all introduce yourselves, tell me what your project was, and what your background is in the production business, and your relationship to incarceration. So, Ashley, it starts with an A. Why don't you go first?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, my name's Ashley Hunt. I'm an artist, filmmaker, and also an educator. I teach at Cal Arts out in the art school out in Los Angeles. I've been making work engaged with the movement against mass incarceration since around 1998, 99. Most of that work has been in one way or other in collaboration or dialogue with grassroots organization who are working on building that movement that, today has led to kind of like the abolition movement today. My background in relation to that is when I was younger in the late 90s, I would see a lot of my students who didn't have the same background as me and didn't look like me as a white man getting harassed by police all the time and getting arrested for very little, and presence of police in prison in their life that I came to understand pretty quickly was racial profiling. And that kind of led me to asking some questions about what are the larger, aside from kind of like personal racism that an individual cop here or there would have, or a judge or so forth, were there structural things that had to do with it, with the economy, where racism on a much larger level kind of fed into our version of capitalism in the U.S. So my investigations seem to be kind of wanting to understand that a bit better, looking into the industry behind growing incarceration as an industry, not only private, also the public industries as well. And then that was also kind of spurred on by growing up with a couple of cousins who got themselves into addiction at different times. And, one of whom did spend a lot of time locked up, and another one who didn't, but both of them had their addiction treated as a crime problem rather than a health problem. And I could just see how completely destructive that was. And that seemed to connect really well with the kind of social, political issues and economic issues that were affecting these other students of mine,
And the other one, the first question I got to ask you is, where did you get the name Juicebox? And tell us who you are and all the other stuff too.
Hi, my name is Juicebox P. Burton. I'm coming to you from New Orleans, Louisiana. I got the nickname. It's just if you say juice box a type of way, which I'm always like, if you put a little bit of say it with your chest and you go juice box, This is a
Oh,
really cool name.
all
Jerry's
right.
like, oh, but I heard someone say it like years ago, and then it just kind of stuck with me.
Oh, there you go. Of course, Juice also refers to a famous former football player, so maybe that one's not a good one to call you. You know who I'm talking about?
I do, but
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Just making sure.
I,
Okay.
I haven't gotten confused yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm an independent filmmaker. Like I said, residing out in New Orleans. I have a little independent studio called Studio La La La, which we serve Black, queer, trans folks in our community with education, skill sharing, and community, specifically in the film world. I think that that is where most of my experience comes from. I actually spent this morning trying to find a friend who has been incarcerated and trying to figure out where they are and like how much bail is, and being a police group of people, specifically as a queer, Black, trans person. I'm just used to it. And this project just kind of was one of those ones that just I connected with on a personal level. And yeah, just was really grateful to be a part of.
Both of you cover the subject of incarceration ending in very different ways. And obviously, it's not over, but we'll get to that. Ashley, in yours, it's a documentary with a little artistic twist to it. Juicebox, yours is a science fiction approach set in the future. It's called Space to Breathe. So, what does that title mean, and how does it relate to the film?
So the film itself was written by Walida Imarisha. When I jumped on as director, it was great to really get to help to materialize her vision. But Space to Breathe itself is just this idea of the one great thing about Afrofuturism that I find is that when you get to create something that doesn't exist, it gives this intention that there is a possibility for it. And so Space to Breathe is this idea of, hey, 70 years from now, prisons don't have to exist. And what does that look like? Like, what does that feel like? And we examine that through three teenagers who are looking through the history of what us, at that point, would be ancestors, have done to help to create this liberated world. I love the idea of thinking about what that space to breathe feels like what those next moves were, like the lack of trauma that these kids have, just waking up and, not having to deal with like a policed world. And so I think that's where the context comes from.
So, Ashley, let's talk about your film, And Water Brings Tomorrow. How does water fit into this as a metaphor, and how does that relate to grief and loss, which is kind of the theme of your documentary?
Well, the film is the third of a trilogy of films that, in a different way, try to think about a world after imprisonment. And a part of that has been doing these kind of experimental documentaries that are one part being in dialogue with grassroots activists and movement makers who are building the movement to move beyond prisons and do that in multiple ways in terms of creating new systems of care within communities and also working on legislation and so forth, working to stop new prisons from being built and shut down old ones. And then at the same time, working with landscape in ways that kind of study what the natural world around a given carceral space will look like as it takes over the ruins of that space. So it kind of began in a way with the question of ruins. What happens when this space is no longer a carceral space? How does the natural world take it back over? And in this particular piece, water was a major aspect of that because there was so much water around in Southern California where I was when I was shooting this, and everywhere I went to shoot these different prison sites, former prison sites, there was a lot of water around, and it just made me think about that and connect to ideas of grief. As I'd been thinking about that as well as a kind of poetic dimension of the film, trying to weave these other aspects together through the figure of what kind of emotional work. And then the title just came out of thinking those things together.
So the film has kind of got a photo essay aspect to it and poetry, and there's a voiceover on that. Is that your voice?
That is not my voice. That's the voice of Oscar Ochoa, who did the voiceover for my second piece within this trilogy, which is called Double Time. But the writing is mine, and
Oh, you did it all. You shot it, you edited it. I saw that. Your name's all over the place.
yeah. And my little kid had a hand on the piano a little bit for some of the music.
Cool.
My little 6-year-old.
Juicebox yours. So you've got a good get in that you've got a major talent, Roger Guinevere Smith, who has been in lots of movies and TV shows. How did you arrange that?
Footnote.
Roger Guinevere Smith is a prolific actor, writer, director who's been in numerous movies, including Do the Right Thing, Summer of Sam, Till, and Dope.
One thing about Roger is Roger's just like has his pulse on abolition and does a lot of grassroots work. So it was just a really great fit because of his belief system around what the film represented and how he moves in the world. And it was great to have him on set. I mean, he's cool and has elder vibes. So he's like cool elder, you know?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, he brings that gravitas and that star power there too.
Yeah. No, he's got a walk to him and he's very, very funny. And so, yeah, I was super grateful to be able to work with him.
Did you just reach out to him or how did he get cast?
They reached out to him and then there was, like I said, he most definitely came on because he believed in what the film represented.
Right, great. Let me go back to you, Ashley. On your film, there are locations all over the place, including Virginia, California, North Carolina. How big was your crew and your budget? Or is this pretty much you doing the whole thing?
I was really lucky to get the majority of the budget through the Art for Justice grant that had been funding a number of amazing people over the last decade. The total money budget was like maybe a little over 100,000, and then a lot of in-kind time on my part, which is, it's okay. It's what I love to do. So.
And you traveled around to these different sites and shot this with, how big was your crew?
The trips that were around Southern California, I would usually have one or two people with me. And for like the interviews around here, other ones were just me. It was too shoestring to be able to really bring anybody. But I've been doing this for a long time, so figuring out some creative ways to light things without a big studio truck or something. And
right. Juicebox yours goes in a totally different direction. Not only is it nonfiction, and like you said, it's Afrofuturism. It's got some cool special effects in it. That stuff couldn't have been easy or cheap. So tell me a little bit about working with those special effects and even the costume design and creating that new world.
Yeah, I mean that's my most exciting. If I could just create new worlds all day. We had an amazing creative team down from hairdresser to costume designer. Our special effects artists really worked with us to make sure that we stayed in budget and also had things like a flying camera. We shot everything in 2 days.
Wow.
I know. It was a rough 2 days, but exciting. We had a pretty big crew that day. I think there were like 22 maybe people on set. So yeah, how I move as a director, specifically when I'm working with other creatives, is I feel like giving them an idea and then allowing them to kind of run with it. I think that collaboration is a huge part of my artistic process and my art practice. And so that was what it felt like. It was like, this is kind of the vision that I'm seeing for this whole film. What do you think? And then we would just bounce ideas. I mean, if you do hair, you're great at doing hair, So like, I'm not going to like stand over you, So it's
and
like
the great puffy afro. I love that one. The pink and blue afro. That was beautiful.
Yeah. She wanted to like recreate clouds. She was like, I want the hair to look like afro clouds. And I was like, let's go. I'm into it, And so it really worked out well to work with people that have a vision and are down to collaborate and are open for this dialogue that I think created a really beautiful film.
And it is a short, by the way. About halfway through, it goes into kind of more of a documentary mode where it talks about history and you have lots of stock footage. Was that still you, or did you just work with an editor to create that whole segment?
Jordan Flattery, our producer, shot a lot of that footage through the process. It took about 5 years to get the funding for the film. So in that time, he was picking up archival footage. I jumped into the film probably around 2 years in, but a lot of the archival footage was created by us or by the team.
Surprise guest drop in.
It's David Smith.
Hey, thank you all so much for having me on today.
Yes, David is back for the second year in a row to talk about the Inthrive Festival. You are the founder and festival director. Congratulations and welcome back. How's it been going in the last year?
Oh, it has been an incredible year, Jerry. We have been to everywhere from the far rural southwest part of Virginia and Appalachia up to Boston. We've had hundreds of people show up to these events around the country. It's just turning into this grassroots movement celebration of what's possible after incarceration, what's possible when we share the stories of people who have been impacted by incarceration, let them share their stories on their own terms. And we're coming back for our biggest and best year ever here in Richmond to kick things off again in October.
And you suggested having both of these filmmakers because they have a similar subject and a very different approach. Have you met Ashley and Juicebox yet, or is this your first meeting?
I've met Ashley briefly on a Zoom call. Juicebox, this is my first time with you. I'm thrilled to be sharing this space with you, man. Appreciate it.
Excited to be here.
So what's new this year, other than the obvious?
Well, so we've really been able to expand our programming. In the past, we were just at First Baptist. We are now partnered with VCU. Their Gender and Women's Studies Department has become a co-sponsor of the event. And we're going to have a closing night, which is where Ashley's film is going to be shown over at Studio 2-3. They're really excited to be bringing this into their space. They already do some abolitionist work over there from time to time, so just excited to bring this to the next level. We're going to be going into the city jail for the first time.
Oh, wow.
We couldn't do films in there, but we're going to be having some spoken word performed in there by some of the filmed creators that are coming to Richmond, as well as some local folks. We're going to be out in Highland Springs, which is one of the most over-policed areas in this country. They have the highest rate of incarcerated fathers in the country, and we're thrilled to be going in there with Path Eclectic as a community host there. A little bit non-traditional venue, but that's what makes it exciting. And yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on this year, 4 days. Oh, and I can't forget, we are having the world premiere of the first ever visual album from an incarcerated female artist.
Wow.
B. Alexis's visual album is going to have its world premiere on Saturday night over at VCU as part of our festival this year. So it's going to be an incredible, diverse set of programs. So no matter what someone's interested in, they're going to be able to find something that's going to capture their attention.
Terrific. Now, Ashley and Juicebox, are y'all going to be able to be here?
I'll be there for the screening on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't make it this year, but I'm still super excited to be able to show up where I can.
Well, David, thank you so much for dropping in. I'm going to get back to these guys and talk about their movies a little bit. Congratulations on another year, and hopefully we'll talk next year.
Well, thank you so much. And Juicebox, Ashley, so glad y'all could be here with TV Jerry today. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to the filmmakers now. Let's start with Ashley. What's next for your movie?
Well, right now we're just building a grassroots tour for the film. So it's great that the Inthrive Festival is also moving around to some different places. So I think a couple of the other ones will be able to bring it back, including I'm hoping the screening that they do in Appalachia, because we shot part of the film there with this organization coalition to stop this new prison from being built, this new federal prison. But the idea of the film, which has been my majority kind of approach for my career, has been to try to make sure that the film is available and useful to grassroots organizations. And so rather than think of the film as kind of done and now just get it showcased out in the world, that actually the next part of the film is actually showing it in places where there's movement building work being done and offering it as a kind of free capacity building tool of the imagination to get people talking. And there's a few new campaigns to stop new prisons from being built in a few different parts of the country. And I'm trying to get those campaigns to talk to each other, and hopefully that they build some momentum with each other. And yeah, the idea is to have it be a support rather than a drain on people's, time and stuff. So. And
Juicebox, what's next for this short? And then have you got some other stuff planned after that?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. We're working on a grassroots tour. Very grateful to be showing in New Orleans Film Festival in our hometown next month, which is going to be super exciting.
Great.
A couple colleges we're trying to get around to. And then, yeah, I'm working on a film that I've been working on for about 2 years called Queen of the Pen. It's also a film around incarceration, but of two trans women who were formerly incarcerated, and similar Afrofuturism vibe with some documentary footage. it's like where I'm at right now. Yeah, I think that's it.
Obviously, Ashley, you're not an incarceration survivor yourself, but you did have some people in the project that were?
Yeah, absolutely. And the film absolutely wouldn't be what it was without their expertise and their generosity and their perspective. And two of the survivors of incarceration who are a big part of the film will be present for the screening in Richmond. Amber Rose Howard, who's the director of Californians United for a Responsible Budget, or CURB, which is leading the Close California Prisons campaign out here in California that has closed down a number of prisons so far in the last couple of years. And then also Roach Brown, who's a survivor of the Lorton Correctional Complex.
Here in Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. He really contributes a lot of very generous kind of Also, we feature his radio show in the film. It's a part of the narration in a way.
From D.C. there, I recognize the barbecue place.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to be flying down. It's actually going to be his first time seeing the film with an audience in public. So I'm really excited that he's going to get to do that.
Well, I want to thank you both for being a part of this interview. Both films are very interesting, take very different approaches, and good luck with the future on them.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. It was so great to meet you, Ashley.
You too. Yeah, I hope we get to meet in person.
I'm sure we'll cross paths.
Yeah. I've known Jordan for a long time, so please give him. We crossed paths doing a lot of work in Louisiana back in the day. So give him a love for me.
That was two of the filmmakers who have films in this year's Inthrive Film Festival that celebrates the voices and talents of incarceration survivors. Ashley Hunt with And Water Brings Tomorrow, and Juicebox P. Burton, whose short is Space to Breathe. They'll both be screened at this year's event that runs from October 3rd through 6th at several locations around town, and there's a link to it on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
Coming soon. In theaters.
There's a bunch opening this weekend, including some returns like Avatar and Spider-Man. But here are the new ones. The Smashing Machine. Dwayne Johnson has been getting kudos for his performance as mixed martial artist Mark Kerr. Taylor Swift, the official release party of a showgirl. The singer presents a behind-the-scenes look at the making of her new record. Anemone. Daniel Day-Lewis is back for this drama directed by his son Ronan that explores the relationships between brothers, fathers, and sons. Bone Lake. A couple's getaway turns into a nightmare when they share it with another couple. Killing Faith. In 1849, a widowed doctor escorts a free slave and her daughter across the West to find a faith healer, because everything the child touches dies. Good Boy. This latest thriller revolves around the forces terrifying a family and how the dog saves the day. Are We Good? Comic and podcaster Mark Maron reflects on his life after the death of his partner, Lynn Shelton. It also features a variety of famous comics. Scared Shitless. Can they even say that title? It involves a plumber and his son who have to deal with a monster that escapes from a toilet.
TV and streaming.
Monster, the Ed Gein story on Netflix. Brian Murphy's series on notorious serial killers focuses on this man who inspired the killers behind Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lamb, with Charlie Hunnam in the title role. Chad Powers on Hulu. Glenn Powell comes to the small screen as a disgraced college quarterback who disguises himself in a wig and fake nose to help a struggling Southern football team and revive his career. It's loosely based on the experience of Eli Manning, who tried out for Penn State in disguise. Steve on Netflix. Cillian Murphy has the title role as the head teacher fighting for his college's revival, while a troubled student has his own violent tendencies. Stay on Hulu. A couple near the end of their marriage begin to encounter supernatural forces that cause them to fight for their lives. Boots on Netflix. Bullied gay teen Cameron joins the Marine Corps with his best friend despite risks. Ozzy Osbourne, No Escape from Now on Paramount Plus. The singer faces his identity and mortality. The Lost Bus on Apple. After a brief theatrical run, this drama starts streaming with Matthew McConaughey as a bus driver who drives a class of kids through the 2018 campfire, directed by Paul Greengrass. Saturday Night Live is back for a new season. You know you can subscribe to this podcast on the usual platforms or go to TV Jerry, click on the podcast tab, and there's a link to enroll. Next week, we'll meet a producer behind The American Miracle, which looks at the founding of our country through a religious lens. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sifter, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.